just, so when we talk about non-verbal means anything which doesn't have word. They're dating and whatnot. In the third week, she said, if you want to proceed further, then why don't you buy Jordan shoes? And that was the end of his dating. It's like she's asking for Jordan shoes. Beginning your adult journey, you're not matured. I mean, some people think they've arrived in life.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Wherein we have Professor Hart with us. So, on a very personal note, I read this book called Tuesdays with Maury, and somehow I feel that we resonate you with the person like Maury, how he used to give lessons to his students. So that vibe that that person had, I'm sure people who've read would resonate. That's how you've been to us. So thank you for all your time and effort that you've given.
Most welcome.
To talk about what we're going to speak about today, there's a lot that you've done, be it professionally, be it personally for us. Um, I don't think us describing that would do justice. So we would just request you if you can tell us the entire journey, how you've built yourself personally, professionally. So yeah.
Sure, I don't think I've done a lot, but thank you for saying I've done a lot. Well, I can say that perhaps I started working while I was too young, when I was in my teens. So when I was 18 years old is the first job I started doing, because I didn't come from a very heavy privileged family. So my father passed away at a very young age, and everything I had to do. So I started working in one of the coaching classes. So I taught mathematics, because apparently I was very good at it. So I taught that while I was completing my 12th and then my BCom. And while I was doing the BCom, because I used to have morning classes, so afternoon I would teach. And that's how I would take care of my pocket money and whatever I could. And then I realized that commerce is not my ball game, and I was very good at English, perhaps because I was convent educated. So I started scouring for any place where I could learn English, and that's where I got into BA in English literature. I did that, and then I did MA, and then MSc in psychology, and now I'm in my last 2 years of PhD in behavioral sciences. Now that is like the journey in terms of my academics, because I'm somebody who likes to study, who likes to read, who likes to. When I talk about reading, I mean I like to read about things that surprises me, particularly why people behave the way they behave. And one of the things I figured out in the way people behave is the language that they use. And so initially I started working in call centers. This was in 2003s, when I was in 20s. Call center was a big thing in India. It was established in 2003. But I started working in 2006, because that time I became like 18, 19 years old. So I started working in call centers. So for a brief period, for 2 years, I was working as a call center agent, which is where I was exposed to the international English. Otherwise, the English we learned here was an Indianized English. I didn't have an exposure to what was international. And then after some time, I got promoted to a trainer. We call it voice and accent trainer, or communications trainer. So I was trained by British Council to conduct training for UK audience, or for UK processes and services, as they call it. And then from there till about 2012, I worked as a trainer, voice and accent trainer. And then I got into human resources, learning and development function, which has to deal with organizational development. So that had managerial level and leadership level kind of trainings, which I could facilitate. And that went on till about 2017. And then after that, I chose to do PhD. And my parents were wondering, like, you're crazy. You did BCom, BA, MA, MSc. What's wrong with you? Why don't you just work somewhere and just be quiet and settle in life? But I want to do something differently, because I want to study, and that was my escapism from a lot of things that was not comfortable in my own life, like emptiness of my father, or for that matter, being accustomed to working at a very young age. And so I thought studying PhD and all of those things will help me. So that's when in 2018 I joined NMIMS. And then while I was here, I was with IIT for a while, doing my stint with PhD, and then COVID happened, and then lot of delay here and there. Finally, on the advice of our vice chancellor and the way he put sense in me, I enrolled here, and I'm in my 4th year now
In
of
NMIMS.
at NMIMS doing my PhD. Yeah. So I come with, so in terms of corporate, I've conducted training programs. I worked in operation for like three years, I could say 3 years and a half approximately, and then the rest of it has been into training, which is organizational development, L&D. Initially, it was language training, to do with training, particularly the employees who are traveling internationally, for them to get accustomed to a particular region. So I had US, Australia, and United Kingdom. These were the 3 major countries that were taking Indian talent, particularly fresh engineers. So I conducted trainings for them, and then I moved on to MDPs, management development programs, and all of those things. So that's how at NMIMS now, you know my role. I teach in the area of communication, and I conduct MDPs for a Center for Executive Education. That's where the behavioral science element comes in. So that's been my education. So I don't know if it is right to say, because I was not the only one, but at a very young age, I became a manager.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 26, I was a manager managing a particular line of business for L&D. And a lot of exposure I got, and that got me entry into this organization, into NMIMS, into this institute. That has been my journey. I mean, I don't know if I've achieved quite a lot, but I can say I've made friends at high places because of the exposure that I've had. So even today, while I conduct trainings here, while I'm delivering lectures, I also do external consultancies and workshops and all of those things parallelly. So I could say 4 things which kind of summarizes what I've done so far. One is teaching and training, particularly. Second has to deal with counseling, because my qualification has been into counseling. The third thing is into researching in the area of whatever it is that I'm doing. And the fourth and the most important element is continuing to study.
Yeah.
Like continuing, not stopping. Even after PhD, perhaps I'll do something else, because every year of my life I would do something or the other. So I have a lot of certificates. So my friends tease me that I have letters of the English alphabet as my certificate. So I do that so that I'm able to upskill myself.
What about those non-verbal cues? Like, apart from what we are trying to say, those non-verbal cues I'm sure matter. So, what should be kept in mind in terms of that?
Non-verbal cues. Now, in terms of non-verbal cues, anything which is, so when we talk about non-verbal, means anything which doesn't have words,
Yeah.
or verb has to deal with words. So non-verbal, so which includes body language,
Yeah.
which also includes your perception, which also includes your name. For example, what does it resonate when somebody hears your name for the first time? It also includes your past experiences, particularly a third agent who's talking about what you're doing. It includes all of those things. So I can perhaps tell you 3 things, obviously not exhaustive, but what is on the top of my mind. Number one is impression building. That is an important element for young managers. That is another non-verbal cue. Now, that impression building has a visual and oral, which has to deal with listening part, which has to also deal with the physical part of it. All of those things, like how you look, how you sound, how you talk, right? All of those elements are a part of that impression building, which is also called as charisma or charisma, as
Yeah.
we call it. I would prefer calling it charisma. Like building that charisma inside of you. That is one non-verbal. The second part, which is usually driven by the present communication, face to face, present moment, which is body language.
Yeah.
Because people respond to each other considering the body language movement, right? You can deliberate your body language for some time, as in terms of acting, but you need to internalize. Even in acting, you need to internalize and play the role and be the role rather than just trying to pretend, right?
Yeah.
But in a real life scenario, the kind of sophistication you project in terms of civilized body language that you project, the way you shake hands, the way you nod, the way you use your hands and all of those things,
Yeah.
they're very important. And basically, it's to do with eye movement. That's one part, and you can tell who's a freak and who is not when people stare at each other, right? And how can they make you feel uncomfortable when somebody's looking at all over you and not looking into your eyes. That's one important part. Second has to deal with gestures, the kind of hand movements, and we know these things need to be learned. Nobody learns. I mean, nobody's born with these skills, so we learn these skills, right? And in terms of posture, So visual, which is eye movement, gesture and posture, like how you sit, how comfortable, uncomfortable you are, because you give those cues to the listeners, right? They play a vital role. In fact, if you work with certain organizations, you'll see people's body language is in that particular fashion, which is the third point, which is where dressing comes in, right? How you dress, and also a very strong sense which is connected to short-term memory. In fact, long-term memory gets into short-term and then gets registered in the long-term memory for a long time, and that is a sense of smell, like how you smell. Some people smoke their life out and they come back and they think that they don't, but then everybody can get the smell. That influences your communication big time. Like I know that, and some people find it mystical if you figure out that you just smoked, right? Right, the kind of perfume you wear, right, the kind of like how you smell, that's very important. Yeah, I mean, we usually have, if you're going to have, if companies you work for, class companies, the places where I've worked, they're very particular about smell, particular about visuals. So you need to feel comfortable and bright, and you need to feel nice, right? If it's a horrible place, if it's stinking, you can smell the food right here, your attention will be elsewhere.
Absolutely.
We're human beings at the end of the day, right? And when I say, with great respect to people who think they are not animals, but we are animals at the end of the day, right? We have to deliberately create an environment to function in a particular fashion. Otherwise, we are guided by, like, the very mention of vada pav or the very mention of pani puri and the crunch can take your conversation somewhere else, right? Like the hot Maggie, having it, when it's extremely cold.
Visualize it.
You can visualize it, right? The yellowness, the smell of it, the steam that gets out of it. See, now the conversation will go elsewhere only. So the smell, the part of it, the how you dress, how you come across is very important. And I'm not so old also to tell you what to do, but I personally think that we should, or you should, perhaps define the leadership couture, the leadership dress, right? And that uniformity will maybe create a lot of inclusion and will appreciate diversity, and there wouldn't be a demarcation between an inferior and a superior kind of a deal, right? Like, as they say, we are being driven towards competency based work, right?
So as you said that vada pav about vada pav, I was just standing at the Anand food store right now. Anyways, so as you said about soft skills and the verbal cues, so as a fresher and as a part of future managers or top executives, what should a person or what should a new entrant should look for or has to keep in mind for the interviews that he goes for, and what are the few traits which HRs look at, particularly when the interview is going on?
Right. So now I see the three parts to your question, but I will kind of respond in a manner that is not in sequence of the question you've asked. So the first and the most important one is preparation. For example, an MBA, if you choose to do an MBA, right, that decision that you take, a well-informed decision, must be serious from the very day. And when I use the word serious, I mean that you take accountability and responsibility, not that you torture yourself. Because what I'm going to say next, if you torture yourself, you'll never develop those skills.
Yes.
So trying to come out of your comfort zone, we have random groups that are created here. Trying to be friends, understanding rejections, understanding people, likability factor, understanding what goes on and what doesn't. This is how you develop your ability to thrive. Even when you see setbacks, you're able to build on resilience. You're talking with faculties, you're talking with peers, you're talking with seniors, right? You're talking to maybe a psychologist if you need help. You're talking to your family members, trying to adjust in the environment that you can. And that's like on-job training for soft skills, right? And understanding, while you do this, you understand your own weaknesses, because we have personalities, and our personalities may gel with certain, may not gel with some other personalities. And while we do this, there are the ecosystem makes you do things which you may or may not like, you may find sensible, you may not. In the larger scheme of things, it will make sense.
Yes.
But initially it may not make sense. 10 assignments in 1 week, you're like, who does this? It never happens in corporate. People have not worked in corporate and they pass comments like that.
Yeah, true.
Right? So you see, so this is an exercise. So this kind of environment which NMIMS actually creates is, and if you learn to thrive in this environment, you already developing social capital, you develop your psychological capital, you get better prepared for the interviews to come.
True.
Right? This is where when you see somebody who is sitting at the other side is communicating with you, usually because we have our culture gives respect to people with designations and with age and all of that. Somebody who's taking an interview will be older than you. There is a high possibility of getting nervous and ensuring that you have to give the right answer. There is never a right answer. It's either it's appropriate or inappropriate. I've been in HR, I've conducted interviews, and we always checked for three things. I mean, we checked, I'm sure they check now also, apart from all of those competencies and all that. We perfectly know that you're not a ready-made material. We're not looking for like, right? But we need to know that if you have the right set of attitude, outlook towards life. Attitude is outlook towards life, simple.
Yeah.
If you can adjust in the environment, right? So we look at these three things. One is the attitude. What kind of attitude does this person carry? And because of the interviews that the HRs have been conducting over a long period of time and the training in behavioral sciences, they can figure out in 5 minutes, in fact, in 3 minutes and a half, they can figure out whether this person is likable or not, whether this person will thrive or adjust in the environment or is fit for this environment, right? Second, we look for this person's ability to learn, part of an attitude, but is this person learning oriented, right? Can this person take feedback appropriately? So they'll give you some stress. They'll try to put you in a scenario which will, and they will check your response. So somebody who's not a learning oriented will respond in a very haphazard manner, right? Like, I'm right, I'm absolutely correct, or you're creating this scenario because of which I'm in trouble, otherwise I wouldn't be. So they kind of check that. And third, they check how if you have really made a well-informed decision to join this organization, how much do you know about this place, which can be translated into loyalty, that like sticking in this place for a long period of time. And if generally people in any kind of interview, they go like, this is the only place I want to work in. But you'll be interviewing for many other places, right? And then when you realize it's your dream company, you'll be like, I'll die for this company. And we have seen in the companies I have worked, like during the interview, they are the best. You take us, right? You take me, and in 2 years, your company will change. Yeah, in 6 months, your management will change. They come with that thought process. And 4 weeks into the company, like this is how I've seen. This is I don't know what you call this in English, but this is what they do. बोरिंग है, कुछ नहीं है इधर, अलग करना है ना कुछ, मतलब मुझे ऐसा दे दो, सीईओ बनना है मुझे 2 दिन में, ये क्या बकवास काम दिया है. So I faff around, I look for another job, and then I realize nobody is paying me this much. Then I kind of be there for a while.
Yeah.
So many people do this, and because it's a Jerusalem effect, they feel I get into a big company means my life will change immediately.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it's a new life. You're new, right? You're just 24 years, 25 years old. You're just beginning your adult journey. Yeah, you're not matured. I mean, some people think they've arrived in life. 25 matlab, oh, I know what to do. I know. That ego hurts because you have other people. You may have somebody who's not possibly your age, maybe younger than you, who's teaching you, giving you gyan of life. So things change, right? And therefore the HR looks for, can this person fit my company, right? Or the group of people that they're going to be working with. Unless you're going to be an HR, I mean, they're hiring you for their team. They want to see if you will fit with the values of the company, fit with the current ecosystem that the company is into, right? And sometimes if they don't take you, does not mean that they don't want you.
Yeah.
They know that this person is the best fit somewhere else. And everybody knows that, right? Now you don't get through. Perhaps in 3-4 years down the line, another vacancy opens up and you may get there at a senior level. But that is what it is. So the first part is developing your soft skills. Soft skills is a very broad term, but more than anything else, developing in soft skills your interpersonal skills. Obviously, now another lecture will begin if I tell you about intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is how you are. I mean, it is in research and it is psychologically tested. If I don't accept who I am, I will not be able to communicate with the other person, because I will have every communication I will have will be fake, like I'll be driven by distrust and all of those things. So intrapersonal and interpersonal, when I build that, I develop my soft skills, and then I'm able to be likable because people like me for who I am. I get into the right set of people, and then finally I know this is what is expected out of me during the interview, and I make a well-informed decision. I know about the company, I know about their value system, I know about the key people who are a part of the company. I go through LinkedIn or I go through anywhere information is available.
Yes.
Where do I want to? Operations, marketing, general management, wherever. I know. So somebody who has a very clear goal shows signs of leadership.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
vision is a sign of leadership, and people like that, and you become a likable personality, and they would want to work with somebody like you. And one must know at your age, it's not, if you get into one role does not mean that's the only thing you will. Maybe after a month the role gets redundant.
Yeah.
You may be doing something else. Openness, right?
So let's say I am somebody who wants to be like you. I want to have the same profile as you. So what should be my first step and what should be my way forward?
So the first thing perhaps is just allowing life to do what it wants to and not thinking too much. I mean, I swear, and just be passionate about what you want. I never knew. I thought I was going to be a mathematician because I was very good at mathematics. Without classes, I scored around 80%. Without classes, I mean, I didn't go to any class and I scored 80% in my 10th.
Yeah.
12th was horrible, but whatever. I can't tell you about 12. But later, then because of the family reasons, whatever. But then I picked up English and I realized that's another core. I stood number one in my college in English as a subject. And then I realized that is my core. And so I followed what I wanted to do. Obviously, it's not a big thing. I didn't become an engineer and all of those things, but I followed that. And eventually, I realized when I talk about English, I like linguistics. I don't want to get into grammar and all of those things. And then linguistics has an element of neurolinguistics, which is with psychology, behavioral sciences. That's how I did MSc in counseling psychology, industrial organization psychology. And throughout, I had the certifications. My organizations helped because they could see the value I was bringing to their business, to the training program, to whatnot.
Yeah.
And that is what kind of got me to where I am. And people who have known me now, they have known that always wanted to do PhD, and I've always said I wanted to PhD, even when I didn't understand what PhD is. But sometimes when you tell yourself you want to do something, somehow the universe works it out for you.
Yeah.
And trust me, I don't know about law of attraction, but I believe in one thing, that if you want to do something, if you want to achieve something, anything, in fact even psychotic things, anything, you get it. And the world has, we have our own mental tribe. We have our own tribe. You just have to find them. And how do you find them? The best way of finding them is not looking for them. Like, I never looked for NMIMS. It happened. My best friend worked here. I came to meet her. She said there is a vacancy. I applied. I went for the interview and I got through. And I didn't even tell. And they were like, join in 6 weeks. But I'm like, I'm at a manager level. I need 3 months notice. They're not ready to wait for 3 months. But then somehow we managed it. I gave my 3 months notice and I joined. So it happened. It just happened. Yeah. But believing, that it will work out for you. Like, you're in a dark room. Sounds very stupid, but you're in a dark room, but you know definitely you're going to be out. Yeah.
But suppose I'm an 18-year-old, just finished my school. I want to be a corporate trainer. In that case, educationally, what should be done?
Now, first you have to figure out if you want to be, because it's a core competency. Not everybody wants to be a trainer. Some people are, they are state dependent. Like, they like the state. Like, they see somebody train, they see me train, they're like, oh, you're so fabulous, I want to be a trainer too. And that's a state. Like, I feel it at that particular point in time. But that may not be my deal. I may want to be a performer. I may want to be a stand-up comedian. Right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily a trainer. So an 18-year-old trying to make a decision, wanting to be a trainer, can be dictated by the past that this person may have had. Like, I can tell you, like, when I was in 10th, I would teach people mathematics. I would teach them English.
Yeah.
Because I liked. Like, if I have to understand something, I will teach. And my friends were also very happy. Like, we won't study, just you come and teach. So I would take a book, go on filling it. I'm still used to it. You would know.
Yeah.
Your feedback. Nice
Yes.
books. I fill. Heavy ones. So I would write it and they would enjoy and sleep as well at the same time while I'm teaching, wake them up. But then I realized that's my core. Like, I don't stop talking. You may have observed now as well. So maybe these are some of the competencies. If an 18-year-old figures out, it's a good idea. But personally, I think till the time one reaches the age of 25 at least, one should explore. Like, keep it. Yes, I want to be. And then if I want to be, then I have to figure out what are the things I could do. Like look for psychological courses that have to deal with human psychology. Look for courses which has to deal with facilitation, for training. Now you have massive options available online to figure out how do these people train. Now when we talk about training, today the training field has also gone into online training, conducting interventions which are a hybrid, synchronous, asynchronous driven, right? So I need to get good information about many things, and I must know that when I perhaps become 20, 22, 23, my life will change, my priorities will change. It's a very young age to think about being a corporate trainer. For all you know, there may not be a position called as corporate trainer in the future, because AI can do that job. In fact, it can do a better job. When I say better job means it will evaluate you, and most companies want that. Like, what am I getting out of this training program? It's very difficult to figure out because it's completely volition, will driven.
Absolutely.
I can teach you, but you're supposed to be using it, right? It's very difficult to measure that. But an AI can measure that really well. Like, there are some courses, they talk to you for 15 minutes, 16 minutes, they'll throw a scenario. And if you answer appropriately, means you've understood what happened previously, then they say, please revisit. So you go back 7 minutes again. Until you complete that 7 minutes, you wouldn't get that, until you get that option. And you won't get the same question. You will get another question. You see the complexities that AI can create. So for all you know, that 18-year is making a mistake thinking of corporate trainer, right? Then later one realizes that now I'll get into niche training, right? Where I will perhaps do trainings which has got to do more with human intervention, which is not to do with technical aspect, which is to do with more with life skills kind of aspect of training. But if one is thinking of courses in human resources, courses in psychology are a very good options. Yeah, but my suggestion is, but it's true. I mean, whoever has been wherever at leadership level, they know that even your MBA only makes sense if you use it. Otherwise, you can be an MBA and sell a vada pav, right? You can be an MBA and perhaps do absolutely nothing. Maybe start your own yoga class. So these qualifications train you. So somebody who has done law can become a corporate trainer. It doesn't really matter. But an 18-year-old should not think too much. My suggestion is an 18-year-old should enjoy, understand life the way it is, build essential skills from the point of view of soft skills, kindness, and see how better this person can get mature. And if possible, I mean, this is my advice. My advice doesn't. It's my advice means it's up to you. You may definitely throw it in the bin, but ensure that not to get on any kind of dating apps. Today, even a 17-year-old is on it because nobody does an Aadhaar verification of how old you are. So they get onto these apps and their priorities are different, right? So then I don't know, because my girlfriend, my boyfriend wants me to be a trainer, I'll be a trainer. It may come out from there also. And people are borrowing feelings, no? We are borrowing, like it's not even my feeling, like I want to be where you are, and so whatever. So my suggestion is to be, if I'm not against dating, obviously no, I've dated so many times, I've enjoyed every moment of it, but I'm not against it. I'm saying it's a good idea to find your mate in your own environment. It's not a good idea to find a mate in the US. Right? Or even for that matter, Gurgaon, while I'm in Mumbai. Right? And there are many instances of these youngsters going astray. I mean, we must also, if I can take this platform to even tell this little bit element, that intellectual capabilities are going down because of this frequent involvement in dopamine related activities such as Instagram, or even for that matter a simple wink. Well, I'll end with this. Like, this one counseling I had of a 19-year-old, 18, who became a 19-year-old. Now, usually they say an average looking guy and all that. I don't know, but because I can't comment on how he looks. But he found a girl apparently very attractive and very young, and so for good 2 weeks they were dating and whatnot. In the third week, she said, if you want to proceed further, then why don't you buy Jordan shoes? And that was the end of his dating. It's like she's asking for Jordan shoes. क्या हो गया मुझे नहीं मालूम. Like 2 weeks I was so much close. Poor fellow, he says she's the only one who chatted with me for this long. Now I don't like girls, I don't want to do anything. So I like, now you'll perhaps like men. I said, no, not like that. But I'm heartbroken. I don't know what. I think there is no meaning in my life. Because she wants Jordan. So I'm like, this is where it is. You see, it sounds very funny. This boy who is not even a man is invested into some things that is causing mental trouble, and our brain does not understand the difference between, it may be a boy also that side. You don't know. He's never had a VC. Video call.
Yeah.
You see, so I don't know, but just built up that attention mila hai,
Yeah.
right? Thoda sa gym mein jata hai, so there is a little bit here and there,
Yeah.
and then now feeling a sense of elevation, but it affects. It's not good because it creates that sense of inferiority that I'm not enough, and this is a very young age. No? So my suggestion is it's a good idea to build skills, and trust me, whether you're from the LGBTQ community or whether you are straight and whatever. I believe what attracts anybody is maturity, and what is something that people look for, whether it's a girl in a man or a man in a woman or a man in a man or a woman, is this thing in place, right? And if you're truly focused on your studies and things like that, I would like to believe that you will find a mate.
Yeah.
But just be careful about these dating apps. And that's my advice if I were to put into this, because sometimes questions like these show up because of an influence that is not internal.
We have observed you being one of the greatest storytellers in our environment here specifically. So if I want to be a storyteller. All of us want to be, because that's how it looks like eventually we'll have to do that. So how do I be a good storyteller?
Now the thing about storytelling, right? It's a paradox, or I don't know what it is, but you cannot be a storyteller. Like, for example, you don't learn the skills of storytelling. I may be digging my own grave here, but ideally you don't. As humans, we're naturally storytellers. Nobody will entertain you if you can't tell a story. The greatest form of any kind of story is gossip. Have you heard gossips? Beautifully told. Otherwise, it's not gossip, no?
Yeah.
Like the thing will be like, he smiled at him, right? You may say, well, he smiled, but there was a little bit of wink. That little bit of wink, the little bit go away, and he winked. He smiled and he winked, right? And then he walked towards. Yeah, walked. May perhaps not only walked towards, but he smiled, winked, and approached. And then they stopped looking at each other because all of us were there. It was only a smile that became association. And you just have to say that much. See, I've not even told you anything. Smile, wink. I didn't even say that maybe they're trying to think. People have put two and two together. You understand? This is storytelling. So it's natural. People like storytelling.
Yeah.
What people tend to do, when they say we have to learn storytelling, is they dramatize it. Like, how can I build a story with company's data? If you have no idea about how things have worked in the company, you will not be able to tell a story.
Yeah.
But if you know if you have a part and parcel of what has been going on, you start with a story. So it's this is how it is. Some people, like, I want to start with storytelling. What's the first thing you think people do? What would you do if you want to start with an impactful story?
Create a narrative, I think.
Yeah, but in that creating a narrative, now that's like a structure.
Yeah.
But what would you do ideally? You will go to Google and you will look for something, no?
ChatGPT.
Nowadays you look for ChatGPT. ChatGPT is dumb that way. But what you will basically look for is quote. Which quote I can start with? Wouldn't you start?
Absolutely.
Yeah, as you sow, so shall you reap.
Yeah.
And then you start with that quote.
Yeah.
4 Saturdays we have sown for this to move from a 98.25% to 99.26% productivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people do this kind of storytelling,
Yeah.
right? Making it impactful, people must understand that when you're doing a business presentation, even when you're learning storytelling, your audience is more important. There may be an audience who don't want to listen to this rubbish, as you sow, so shall you reap. right?
Yeah.
They have 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, you don't. A story in a movie is different than the story you tell people. A movie has a plot, it has a particular way, and most of the movies, apart from the Avengers, like the fighting from the start till the end, whatever. But you need to watch Avengers. I took my loved one to watch the Avengers. Never again the person will go for movies, right? But nevertheless, uh, in general storytelling, you'll see everything is as it is. Then something happens,
Yeah.
and then there is a plot, and in that particular plot, then there is a twist, then there is a climax, and then there is anticlimax, and then finally things come back. And usually in the story things are different, like it started with something and it ends with something, right? Yeah, at some places the actor is crying at the start and laughing at the end, some places laughing and crying.
Crying in the end.
And if you look at Indian style of storytelling, morality,
Yeah.
like mostly in your MBA, if you talk about internship experience and all that, you will definitely say sir, ma'am, or they will tell you don't call me sir and ma'am. Most of the companies don't want you to call them that. You will say, Gabrielle, you have been the most important inspiration in my life for this particular time in my life. You'll make me feel so important that I'll feel I was living for this, right? And you will build that into the story, which you will not see in a Western setting. If you say that in a Western setting, it will be very weird. However, I inspired you. I just told you what to do, right?
Yeah.
So, the kind of emotions we use in story will also be different.
Yeah.
So, if you want to learn storytelling, the most important thing is to be able to live that moment. Like if somebody tell me something about yourself. It's a simple question. How can this be a storytelling? It's actually telling your story. You're not reading, right?
Yes.
Let me start. I'm a graduate. That's not storytelling. That's like reading out what is there in your CV. Your storytelling. Now, this is the person who's getting an entry into your life. Now, you will begin your storytelling with how you made this important decision to do an MBA. I mean, I would say that it will not be the same for everybody. That's the beauty of a story.
Yeah.
And the deal about story is a story is not a fact.
Yeah.
It's a theory, right?
Yeah.
And I don't misunderstand. Not a fact means it's not true. Fact and true are different things, right? So you present it in such a way that you find it interesting. So I will tell about my journey. This is how I grew up. This is how I made this decision. This is how I ensured I completed some things I wanted to do, some things I didn't want to do. But then I realized how important it was for me to do. In the process, I developed my ability to look at things at a larger level, right? I never understood why I was doing engineering. And then I figured out it was an important part of my life because it helped me shape myself as someone who spent 4 years of their life away from family.
Yeah.
I meet friends, close friends. Today we are so connected together. I've developed interpersonal skills. So I think if I'm exposed to an international environment, I think I'll be able to adjust so better. I'm building my story and telling you while I'm talking to you, I've done engineering, I've done this, I've done that. And this environment that I've been exposed to NMIMS with people from all across India coming and learning and teaching, and with such a beautiful experience of talking to people like you. If you have lived that experience, you'll be able to tell a story,
Yeah.
If you're living in bits and pieces, how will you tell a story? So, all in all, there are 4 basic elements to any kind of story. I'm repeating managerial communication 1, right? So, there is ethos, the ethics, credible.
Yeah.
That people can figure out if you're faffing around. Now, you can't say, in my school, I was considered to be Miss some school, right? I won the best boy award 5 times, right? Or my professors, you call any professor right now and they will tell that, yeah, I remember him. I was the most. So people figure out fake types.
Yeah.
Credibility is very important, right? Then comes the logic of what you're saying. Like it needs to flow. And when you're talking to somebody about something, usually you can have conversation if things flow from A to B.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's how we figure out there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you talk without logic. And we've seen so many people when they're nervous, they talk rubbish, right? There is logos, and then there is pathos, emotions. Every story will have emotions. Even an AI has emotions. What's wrong with you? I mean, we'll also have emotions, right? And those emotions that we build. And then the 4th part, and the important part, is mythos. And the part about mythos is creating a context.
Yeah.
Today, I'll bring into Gabrielle's world. Today, you see the world through my eyes. I want you to enjoy this experience of being in my universe and look at the universe through my eyes. And I'm sure you will love the life I'm living. And I would like to welcome you there. You create that environment for your own when you talk to people. You know that humanness I've been talking about, value?
Yeah.
Perhaps that is where the true storytelling is. And now in 2 minutes you're presenting a data. You'll present it in that particular fashion.
Yeah.
Right? You will start with your true emotions. Well, you know what? I'm really nervous right now. I don't know where to start. But one thing I can tell you, I can bring your eye to that particular data point.
Yeah.
I think that tells the story of what we have been doing for over the last 3 weeks. Right? So let me begin from there. And when I talk about it, I can definitely see that those 3 team members, and if you know their names, you take those 3 team members have been consistent enough to ensure that we reach this target. I'm sure we're not really close to it, but that's how. And let me tell you the kind of roadblocks and blah blah blah. You go back and you build a story. It has come from where? It's come from the honesty of your emotions. It's come from what you're not sitting there and wondering, how do I make it impactful so that I get Academy Awards, Oscars?
Yeah.
People will relate to you as a human.
True.
Right? And trust me, you can tell a story in 2 minutes, you can tell a story in like 90 minutes. Bollywood is an example. Right? We can drag for 3 hours. You can add songs also in between if you want.
That is mandatory.
That is mandatory. Right? Yeah. So I think that is the key of storytelling, to understand. Obviously, you need to, and which each of us have, but just maybe this little bit I'll add. In order to also build in stories, we need to have language schema or the story schema into our psyche. The more we read novels, the more we read stories, we'll be able to build in.
Yeah.
It's found that usually, obviously, because they interviewed women, but I'm 100% sure even men, when they watch these series like Anupama and different kinds of series, right? They're able to tell stories really well
Yeah.
because they have a sequence of the storytelling.
Hmm.
Usually, when it comes to you, you have to build a story and tell. The first question for you is, where do I start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people don't have to worry about starting.
Yeah.
The moment they see something like, उसको देखा था तुमने? किसको? अरे उसको, वो घूमती है ना रात को 9 बजे के बाद यहाँ कौन घूमता है? They started from there, and then from there the suspense builds. Your story is built from. You don't stand. अब कैसे start करूँ? You don't build like that. And the moment you get conscious, mess it up. There is no storytelling if you're very conscious.
Yeah.
Right? A storyteller is. So there is no storyteller basically. We humans tell stories. From ancient, we have been telling stories.
Yeah.
Everything is a story. Even this MBA is a story. We train you in such a way that you're going to get into heaven, like the world which is perfect. But it is not. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this was really an informative conversation we had, and
Happy.
this will really help us and as well as our generation. I mean, the information and the knowledge and the experiences you passed, and all the funny things you said, and so I think as you said that what our generation is good at and what are you grateful for, that our generation we are not that good as well. We need to improve a lot, I believe,
Absolutely.
and we will improve, I think. And the times are changing, and I think this the whole thing which we are doing right now, I think will help our colleagues as well as the other people who view. So
Definitely.
thank you for being part of this podcast.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.